Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Brian, and I am the YouTuber that just makes a video on their 2019 Infiniti Q50S Signature Edition rear-wheel drive. Today, I want to discuss a topic that was kind of been discussed on a previous video. I talked with a gentleman, and we shared some data on JB4 data logging versus Ecutek data logging. So that's what this video is going to kind of be centralized around. I want to talk about some things that I found when trying to compare them. And I think it'll just be helpful for people to maybe understand. Maybe they won't be interested, maybe they will. This stuff is interesting to me. So, you know, I just think it's important to talk about. And this is, I think, one big difference. There's differences, more differences, but this is a big difference for me, so that we can make educated decisions on which tune or JB4 we want to go with for our performance mods. Okay, so here we go. Got my picture up there. Here's Data Zap. This is, I need to just really speed through this. I already made a video and it's way too long. So I can't go into any detail or any depth, and forgive me. Also too, I am not the ultimate purveyor of cars. I am not a professional in this industry. I try to do my own research and read and look at a lot of different things and determine for myself. And so I think I have a good basic knowledge, and so don't hold me to the coals. I try to be educated, and so this is just me presenting this information to you. Okay, so with that said, it might be a touchy subject for some. Please don't get your feelings hurt. Don't get upset if you have a JB4 and you feel like I'm picking on JB4 or anything like that, because I'm not. I'm just talking about the differences. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get into what I want to talk about in this portion of this YouTube video. Okay, so here we go. Let me make sure I got all my ducks in a row. Okay, so we're gonna jump in here to the JB4. I have plenty of Ecutek data logs. So we're comparing my Ecutek data logs to JB4, which I thought was gonna be a tough thing to do, and in turn it actually is. Okay, so and here I'm gonna explain. So we got, here's this data log from a JB4, a 3.0T Q50. Here we have his data log, and I'm just going to go in and say it's tough to read other people's data logs because you don't know what they were doing or where they were in the data log, or what speed and what they were trying to accomplish with that data log. So I think the first part, so I get this out quickly, is you want to determine where you are. So I can see quickly that he started a data log and started it in the center of maybe a data log, and then finished that run and continued to idle down a little bit in the RPMs, and then did another one. So I'm going to focus on the second portion here of the screen, and I'm going to push my S key. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to push the S key, and I'm going to drag my mouse, and then I'm going to drop, and that focuses on that portion of the log so that you're not overwhelmed with too much information. Okay, so now we're not really concerned about his boost really at this point, but it shows his boost is 16.89 at the highest portion of, and then also too, I'm going to click on mile per hour, and I'm going to click on throttle load. Let's see, and that shows me 100%. And then I also want to have his, sorry, my vision is not that great with small lettering, and that just happens to be what this is. I got to find my gear, and just bear with me real quick while I scan my screen. Okay, it's over here in the corner. Okay, so that shows me that during this 100% on throttle, he was in second gear. This person was in second gear, and then their gear shift is right here to third gear. And so that gives me enough information to kind of know what we're dealing with. Okay, so trying to get this out quickly. One of the major differences between Ecutek and JB4 is I made notes, and I was up really late last night thinking about this. I'm just going to say it, and it's not meant to hurt anyone's feelings, but the JB4 is just a really elementary way of data logging. It's very limited, and it's very, it only measures certain segments of the data log. And how I'm trying to say this, it does not measuring really quickly a lot of data. What it's doing is it's slowly recording the data over a longer period of time. So all the parameters are smoother. It's in versus Ecutek, where Ecutek is processing so much faster and quicker, and so you're constantly seeing. Let me get this over here so we can see. You're constantly seeing up and down, and it's real jagged and real jittery, and there's just a ton of information in a very short amount of time. So it's processing very quickly, where the JB4 is slowly processing and it's spacing it out. So you're missing a lot of data. It's not nearly as good at information. I mean, the JB4 is providing some information in the data log that can be useful, but if you're serious about data logging and tuning and all the 100 more parameters that Ecutek data logs, it's a whole different league versus the basic generic kind of simplified data log that's in the JB4. So with that said, I had a difficult time, or I would have a difficult time comparing a JB4 data log to an Ecutek data log, just because of the amount of information that is more information that is processed, and that the speed that it's processed in the Ecutek software or the Ecutek phone app. That just a lot more information, and so it's just really hard to compare. And so it's really hard to see, with all the parameters are a lot smoother. It's because the data points are a lot more spaced out. And I'll show you real quick what I'm just telling you, because I can't go into too much explanation because the video will be way too long. So here we have my Ecutek data log. I'm zoomed in on a specific portion of a data log, and this is my error to fuel ratio of bank 1 and bank 2. As you can see, it's all over the place as the computer, as the ECM is adjusting. It's going up to high and it's going up to low, and it's trying to find this happy medium based on other variables of the mass airflow sensor. So it's constantly, there's so much more information that I can see here, and that is all these parameters that I have selected right here. All those parameters have this much more information, and I can only compare this to like the JB4 is a 480 resolution TV display. It's just not providing the same amount of information and data as a 1080p TV. I wouldn't say it's a 5K data difference or a 4K data difference, or it may even be up to a 2K display definition, high definition display difference. But there's definitely a ton more information, and so to compare two data logs together of what I was trying to accomplish is just it's almost, I can't do it because there's just so much information missing. It's just such a basic scale or ramp or plot of data that it's just missing so much information, where you've got to have this Ecutek processing speed so that I can actually see the data and what's happening, within milliseconds, after and after. And so, because the computer is moving that fast, that you've got to be able to read that data that quick, or you're kind of missing a lot of data, and that's just a way inferior process of looking at the data. So hopefully I made that clear. There is just a big difference between Ecutek, the software, and you sending your data logs to a tuner and all the parameters that are going to be done, versus a boost controller with a very basic data logging system that is just providing you enough information to get by. It's not really a data logging system, or the JB4 is not the system to be really going in and tuning a lot of different things and changing a lot of things. I know there's a map 1 through 7 and you can change some things, but it's just not nearly 1/10 of the capability of the Ecutek software. So it's just more for the real basic person. It can get more advanced, so don't get me wrong, it's not a horrible thing, but also too, and I'll have to just show you more of the data logs here and with the AFRs and stuff that I want to talk about, that I can try to talk about quickly because time ticks so fast. So let's see, I'm going to go in here and let's see here. Let me go back to Data Zap. Okay, so let me see here. I got to click on this to make it live. Okay, so here we see, if we go into Boost, this is just one thing I want to mention. Boost starts out at 8.4 and it climbs up kind of slowly in the 100% throttle, and I mean, he's on 100, this person is on 100% throttle right here. And then also too, I need to select my AFRs. Okay, hang with me real quick. God dang it, man. Let's see. There's AFR here. Make sure that's clicked. I got to find AFR2. Okay, so here the AFRs are. Okay, so we looked at my AFRs, zoomed in, and this is what I'm seeing. I mean, there is over 100 or maybe 200 different time plots in this portion of this graph right here with about a similar zoom in. Okay, so we're going to close this out. And so here we're looking at, as you can see, as I run across, that's like one. I mean, there's like maybe 20 in this segment here. So the Ecutek is just way more sensitive and way more processing, benefit. And I don't know how other way to say that in this video. I might think of a better term here in a short bit, but Boost takes a little while to come on because it's a boost controller. The boost controller is, if you want to think of this, I thought of this last night, and you've got a person, say from the 30s, when you called on a phone, and that's a system, you called on a phone and you got an operator, and the operator is plugging the dial or the cords back and forth with all these cords running around. And then you say, I want to talk to this person at some address. Then they take the cord and they unplug it from somewhere and they plug it into another hole. So you just it's not that much of a delay. This is over exaggerating the situation. But again, you're not the Ecutek software that's directly mounted into the car and directly talking to the engine. You're talking through someone else that's having to connect you, and so there is just there is a delay. So in that process, you're not getting as much information. You're missing a lot of information. So I just want to explain that I mean, it's just not possible for me to compare really in a detailed sense a JB4 data log to an Ecutek data log. And I think that just goes back into the portion of, a JB4 gives you a good power gain, but the Ecutek has so much more programming and changes and parameters that you can log and things that can be adjusted, and so much more processing power. And so I just want to bring this to people as they may not know. I'm not down talking or being evil against the JB4, as the JB4 has its places. You can put it on and take it off the car quickly. It's just you got wires running different places, and as you add fuel wires and different wires, you have wires connecting to different points in your engine, and you have more wires, and you have a wire coming in around your door well, and it's just a different type of system. And it's just a less precision piece of equipment, if you want to put it that way, a software, processing power. So, okay, so enough said. I think I got that explained. That's the downfall of the JB4, but the plus is that you can put it on and put it on easily on the car, and then you don't have to mess with a lot of things if you don't want to, and you just want to preload map 1, map 2, map 3, and have the car manage its own system. where the Ecutek software, the tuner is having to go in and tune a lot of stuff so that the car runs right. With a JB4, it's relying on the car's factory computer system to keep things in check still. Where Ecutek, it will manage to a degree and keep things safe, but you don't get the most performance that way. The tuner wants to go in, you data log, and he wants to turn things up per your car, per your situation, so that your car is safe. Hopefully that makes sense, but let me get out of this one right here and look at some other things, since this person sent me some more data logs. Okay, so this one gets, I don't know if it's this one, but one of these gets really hairy. Okay, it's this one here, you know, and it was just depending on what they were doing and how they were data logging and what they were intending to do. But this is ups and downs and gear changes and slow down and hit traffic and hit a nice road and haul ass for a brief second. So there's this information is just all over the place and just boggles my mind, but I have to narrow down in this map, and I just don't want to take too much time. So we're going to go AFR1, and we're just going to concentrate on AFRs. Let me select them. We're going to get rid of boost. Okay, so then I'm going to focus on, and we also too want to go in and hit the throttle, and that'll show me where they 100%. So we're just going to pick what looks like the best and the longest run that he did. So we're going to hit the S key on the keyboard on a Mac, drag that across and drop it. So now we're focused on that much smaller portion where I can make sense of it. And so here we got his AFRs. Obviously here's where he steps on the throttle 100%, and this is where he ends the throttle 100%. Let me get to the gear so we know what gear this person's in. So looks like they were in gear 7, and the car downshifts. So he's just driving in auto mode, or he put it in manual mode and clicked it down, and the car jumps up into power, but he's 100% throttle. So here is the delay of that process. And so boost, we're just gonna click in on boost real quick. And you can click on, I don't know if people know this, but I've been using the DataZap since 2013. I haven't been using in between years that I didn't have cars, but I've been using a lot more in the last couple of years. So I knew some tricks. So you click on boost and it elevates the boost part of that. So when he kicks down from 7th gear to 5th gear, the boost jumps up over it's kind of a slow period of time, or a laggy time. We got let me boost at 11.9, 8.5, 9.9, 11.9, 14.6, and it levels off at 5,500 RPMs, and I got to see where the gear change is, but maximum boost, because I just don't have time to talk about everything because it'll be too long. So we're at 17.3 peak boost PSI right there, and then it drops 14. So I just want to bring this up because I can't talk about it in too great a detail because the video will just be way too long, and I'm gonna have to talk way too fast, and it's not gonna make any sense. Whereas the JB4 is relaying this information, and it's slower to do, and it's not as efficient. The Ecutek jumps right into this stuff, and you know, AFRs. I just want to get into AFRs real quick. So now we're looking at the AFR, and those are these lines right here, and they look, because of the amount of data, they're very smooth. If I zoomed in even more, you would see a more fluctuation, but that would be way too zoomed in. I mean, if I zoomed in, it's just not a good thing. So, in my opinion, so AFRs, AFRs, he's here when he steps into 100% throttle. Stoichiometric is 14. Let me see. Let me get my bearings. 14.7 2, I think. It might be just that last number may be a little different. It's 14.7. That's the air fuel ratio. So when he steps on his throttle here and mashes it down, it takes quite there's a longer delay, and car is still running at 13.1 AFR. So the richer you get in the AFR, the lower the number is. The leaner you get in AFR, the higher the number is. When you're off the throttle and you're just coasting, the AFR usually goes up to about 20. And so when you're wide open throttle and you're tuned, you jump down to the 11s. And that means stoichiometric is 14.7, which means that's the optimum burn value. But I don't want to get too complicated, but when you're wide open throttle, tuners will add more fuel and drop that down to the 11s and right below 12 AFR, because fuel cools the cylinder, it cools the combustion process. And so when you overheat your cylinders, you can run into pre-combustion, you can run into NOx. So adding more fuel to the cylinders cools the charge, if that makes sense. I mean, that's just the basic way to say it. So, but there is a fine line. You don't want to put too much fuel into a cylinder, because then all the fuel won't be burnt. It'll be sent out the exhaust. You're just burning. You'll get worse gas mileage, and your performance will drop. So there is a happy medium of amount of fuel to air where you want to add a little bit more fuel to cool the cylinders. So from my reading and my understanding, 11.5, 11.7 AFRs, can jump up, to 12, down to 11.1 as your computer is trying to, we have AFR bank 1 and bank 2. We have 2 intakes on each side, one on one side and one on the other. So they are trying to figure out, based on the mass airflow sensor, what is the optimum AFR, and that is changing every few milliseconds, and so that's a big task. And so that's why you see on my Ecutek it just going bonkers, jumping around. And I'm just going to click on this one again. Why you see this information like that? It's just so much more detailed. So I don't want to beat a dead dog. I know that's a horrible term. I love animals, and I don't want to, but that is a coined term of beating an idea to death. I don't want to do that, but let's look at one of my data logs real quick before this video gets too long, and it is already too long. So let me jump down. Here's one that I did, and hopefully I've covered this information clear enough to make sense. So here's one of I'm in the process with Hussein at Racebox tuning and revisions online, or not through email, sorry. And so I'm in the process still of tuning and revisions, and so I'm not doing 0 to 130 runs just as of yet with this new tune. So this is a 0 to 60 to test my launch control, and 0 to 60. So again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit the S key on the Mac. I'm going to run that through, and I'm just going to focus more on this wide open throttle run. So how I know it's a wide open throttle run is I'm going to hit my accelerator sensor. This is what Hussein likes to. This shows me the voltage of the pedal, and so I know that 4.66 is 100%. So this shows me why when I'm on the throttle hard, and then when I get off the throttle. So then we're going to look at my. We got an average AFR. If you don't want to look at both of them because they're so. Gets really confusing and spiky, but we're going to get rid of that. We're going to jump into AFR2, and there is a big anomaly here that I'm going to just send to my tuner real quick. I mean, it's that stuff happens it quickly, and that's just a matter of milliseconds in time. So it quickly corrected and got back into the loop and is adjusting correctly. So let's see what else I like to pull up here. So vehicle speed on this particular run, I think I got up to 62 miles an hour before I shut down. So that's important to know. Let's see here, what else? You got 4 different fuel trims here that you can go in and fine tune the fuel trims. Fuel trims, if I zoomed in more or I got rid of some of this information like AFR banks and accelerator, you can see it a little bit better, and you can also see the information in the black box as I roll through. But fuel trims and long-term, short-term can hover anywhere between like 92 and 102. You know, as I bounce back and forth, they stay pretty consistent here how Hussein has my car configured, but you do get a lot more data here. I mean, Ecutek provides like 150 different parameters or 120 different parameters that you can log depending on what you're trying to accomplish with the motor, whereas JB4 is probably maximum of 20, and some of those things are not any real data that is you know, that helps you to find out some things. Some of it's just some real basic information. But okay, so we're going to turn those fuel trims off. You got ignition timing and ignition correction. That is a lot of information you want to have a lot of information on and have that processed really quickly, so the car is showing you a second, you know, millisecond by millisecond what's happening. That's how fast it's happening. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't want to make the video too long. I could talk all day on this. I have a lot more parameters that I want to show. So here we are, I'm in first gear, I do my launch, I jump up to second gear, here's the shift to third gear, and I let off the throttle there because I'm at 62 miles an hour and I'm running out of room. So gear shifts are very important. So the basis of this, and I'm closing out this video, I wanted to go in and look at, because my last video was on blow-off valves and the importance of tuning for blow-off valves. You know, I think it's okay if you are running a stock car, 3.0T, you haven't tuned it and you're running blow-off valves, you're not going to damage your car if you put blow-off valves on there. But the car is not running optimally with just blow-off valves installed and not being tuned. But so the whole point of me looking at the data logs and comparing them was to try to figure out what data I could pull from that to prove my point, which it is obviously a proven point, that, you know, blow-off valves are taking mass airflow data and blowing it out and then leaving the ECM without information, and it's having to put in its own information and guess, which causes AFRs to maybe drop past, you know, the 11s down below and into a much more rich situation, and then jump up to 15 and 16, which is a much leaner situation. And those are the things you don't necessarily want to have. Can it be dangerous? Yeah, and if something, you know, catastrophic happened to your blow-off valves, but, you know, that's typically not what's going to happen. But I spit when I talk, so I just want to make sure and run this past everybody because this is really cool information. You know, the Ecutek side of it, with the amount of information and the processing speed that it's doing it, where the JB4 is a lot less information provided. So you know, it is what it is, and I just think that it's a big advantage to if you're going to want to really get serious about data logging, that you could, if you have a friend, get the Bluetooth dongle, the Ecutek Bluetooth dongle, and plug that into your OBD2 port reader on your car, and you could data log a lot more information if you're really interested in fine-tuning your JB4. But yeah, my whole thing here was just to try to compare data logs, but unfortunately, with the lack of information that's provided in the JB4 files, I just can't legitimately compare, and I can't legitimately on my end see where the JB4 with a blow-off valve is blowing off and the computer is getting tripped up. It's just not providing that amount of information. So you know, it would have to be, you know, hopefully I could compare a similar 3.0T with blow-off valves not tuned with, with the Ecutek software, and then logged compared to my car tuned without blow-off valves, and then a similar run, 0 to 100, both cars. Then I could go in and maybe pick apart what's happening with blow-off valves versus not blow-off valves versus tuned versus not tuned. So hopefully that helps. I can make things really, really complicated. That's not my intent. Hopefully this was helpful to someone or anyone that's interested into this information. If you followed me through to this point and you've liked my information and found it helpful, give me a thumbs up. Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion, an intelligent discussion. And so, again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next video. Hopefully I covered everything